What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's episode, I wanted to share with you guys some information that I found out about the C5 when I started looking to buy mine. So we've got the C5 Base and we've got a Z06 here as well, and we're gonna go over both of those options. So this is my C5 Corvette, and this over here is Matt's Z06 on bags. It is beautiful.
Ooh, sheesh. What's up, guys?
So by the end of the video, you are gonna see which car is best for you. So I'm gonna go over some of the common issues with both cars, but first I want to kind of give you guys like a brief overview of what you look out for just when you're buying a car in general. Let's jump into it now, guys. Here's a list of what we found are the most common issues with the C5 Corvette. So for both the LS1 and the LS6, the rocker arms can deteriorate over time, and that'll send the needle bearings into your oil pan. Luckily, the pickup tube has a mesh in there that won't allow it to get sucked up in the motor, but that's still obviously an issue that you need to address. So on the pop-up headlights for both the Base and the Z06, you're going to have these headlight motors on the side. The plastic gears inside of those tend to strip out, so you can replace those with brass gears, and that'll fix your issue. And so both of these C5s may have electrical issues that are caused by the corrosion of the grounds, and so I'll give you a diagram on that as well. These grounding issues can be solved just by cleaning up the grounds, making sure that there's no corrosion on those, and tightening them back down.
Another small one you want to watch out for is if it's been previously modified like this one has. This has long tubes in there. If you look, some of these wires down here were never protected from those headers, so they have the chance of burning. So if you're looking at one of these cars, make sure they were modded correctly to support mods of supporting mods.
Another common issue with these cars is that the rain ducts tend to get clogged. So there's two ducts on this side and one on this side. So make sure to take those out occasionally, clean them out, make sure there's no leaves in there or anything. Or if you do have those clogged, it'll send water down in the footwell on the passenger side, and obviously nobody wants that. So something else that you might notice with these cars is when you're driving, you might hear a lot of drivetrain rattle, and I just want to let you guys know right now, that is normal. Converting your rocker arms to shaft-mounted adjustable rocker arms can help quiet this down, but only if it's adjusted properly. You may also notice that your clutch and throwout bearing are rattling a little bit. Again, this is normal. All this means is that you bought the right transmission and you don't have the dog shit 4L60.
Another thing you gotta watch out for both of these is the torque tubes. There's couplers that connect it to both the engine and the transmission, and if those go bad, you'll hear a clanking. It's not normal, it doesn't sound like you're sewing machine at the engine, it's more heavier metal sounding, so if you hear that, watch out for your torque tube.
One of the more common issues with these cars is the locked up steering column. This basically causes the steering wheel to get locked and you can't turn it left or right. This usually happens at idle or like when you're in the garage, but it can also happen when you're driving. You can fix this on your car by wiring a module into the car to bypass the locking mechanism. These kits usually sell for around $50 to $100 online.
A bonus one for you guys too is that since these are kind of boomer vehicles, they're so low that when some of the people try to get in these, they use the steering wheel for support, which causes the entire steering column to kind of move around a little bit. So make sure it's nice and rigid when you sit in it.
Another thing to check before you buy a C5 Corvette is to make sure that the proper jacking pads were used. The C5 Corvette is the first car that used hydroformed frame rails, so they require a different jacking procedure. You always want to make sure that you use these kind of pucks right here, so that way you don't damage the frame. Basically how this works is that you stick this up in the frame, rotate it, and then it locks into place, and then you can jack up the car without damaging it. Another issue I wanted to bring up is the seats. The seats are just poor quality for the most part. They're pretty cheap, and usually you'll see a rip right here because of this metal frame that's on the inside of the seat, and so that is extremely common. Even on the Z06 model with the slightly nicer seats, you're still going to see the same issue. Another issue you may see is the bushings and the sliders on the seats sometimes get worn out, and it'll make your seat shift back and forth while you're driving. On both of these cars, the diff cover is prone to leaking, so you'll want to check that. This can be fixed by dropping the driver's side exhaust, draining the diff fluid, removing the knuckle assembly, pulling out the axle assembly, and then resealing all of the seals on the diff cover. The final issue that you want to look out for is to make sure that your harmonic balancer isn't wobbling at all. Basically what this means is that you're going to be throwing belts, and it could also start digging into the front of your timing cover. And if this happens for long enough, it can actually dig into your oil pan and cause an oil leak. So now that we've talked about the common issues for both the base Corvette and the Z06, I wanted to talk to you guys about the specifications for both. So starting off with weight, the Z06 weighs about 3,100 pounds, whereas the base model weighs about 3,250.
Now the difference with the Z06 is that it has FE4 suspension package, which includes larger sway bars, stiffer rear leaf springs, some revised camber settings, and a different shock calibration.
The most obvious difference that you'll notice between the two cars is the profile. So the target top is available on the base model, whereas the Z06 has the fixed roof, and it obviously does not have the fastback like the base model does. And because of this, with the fixed roof, there's going to be a lot less creaking and groaning in the Z06 compared to the base model, just because of the rigidity. As stated before, obviously the base model comes with the LS1 and the Z06 comes with the LS6. Both of them are 5.7 V8s, but the Z06 makes 405 horsepower, whereas the base model comes with about 350 horsepower.
Additionally, the Z06 has different wheels. Unfortunately, I can't show you them because these are not OEM. As with this handsome man over here, he has different wheels as well.
Another thing that you'll notice about the Z06 as far as exterior goes is you're going to notice these vents, and basically what that does is that routes air back to the rear brakes to cool them.
So even though Gabe talked about it a little earlier, these boomer seats, the Z06 difference is that it has it embroidered on the top, and then the side bolstering is a little different as well. I think it's a little more aggressive, but they both suck and they both rip. Another one of the differences with the Z06 is that this one 0 to 60 is 4.3 seconds versus as the base has a 0 to 60 of 4.8. On top of that, the Z06 has more aggressive gearing compared to the base model. One of the downsides of the Z06 though is its top speed is only 170 versus where this guy 178.
So the question that everybody's asking is, how much does it cost for one of these beauties right here? And that is the question that we wanted to answer last. So as far as the Z06, this one averages at about $23,000. And now looking at the base model, you're probably going to spend around $16,000. Obviously, this varies based on where you live and the condition of the car. So now the final question is, which one of these cars is best for you? Let me know down in the comments below. All right, guys, that does it for this video.
If you have any more tips for the C5, please leave them in the comments below.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.